name is Jim Crace, and I've just published my 12th novel, The Melody, after promising after my 11th novel, The Harvest, I would not write another one. The driving force of the book is about poverty, and about to what extent poverty and being bestial, being animal, are connected. In other words, how can it be that a mammal, the same mammal, can be living on luxurious food in a hotel and raiding the bins of the hotel in order to feed? So this great spread of the human experience. Down one end is poverty and more animal existence. So there's that. But when I started writing the book, it's also started being about widowhood, and it started being about songwriting, and it started being about the future of a town and how the built environment destroys the natural world. So that's just the way of books. They get busy when you start writing them. I was in a hotel in Chennai, in India, living in luxury with my wife in a suite high up above the rubbish bins of the hotel. I'm not being able to sleep at night because of the animals and the children and the adults who were scrabbling over food from the hotel, from the rubbish bins. And that was so disturbing that even though in my own mind I've retired as a writer, I just, as a kind of pious political sort of person, wanted to address that subject matter. But it was too difficult to write a piece of journalism about, because it's very dodgy to talk about the bestial and the poor in the same breath, and it would misrepresent the issue awfully. So journalism can't do that, but fiction can really do anything, because fiction is sort of unembarrassed, or you can invent a way around the embarrassment. So I had to write that novel, and that's the novel I've written. I thought that I wanted to turn my back on it. What I hadn't realised was that narrative keeps pumping away and suggesting new ideas. So I've already got another idea for number 13, damn it. So I learned when I was a journalist not to faff around, to get on with things. And that's what I've always done in writing novels. I work during the day. When my wife would come back from work, she's retired now, or almost retired, I would stop. I never worked at weekends. So I worked office hours, very puritanically, but I also played a lot of solitaire. Well, we live in the countryside, and what I hadn't counted on is that when the fields around us are muddy, you're stuck indoors. So I think what's happened to me is that I've become a kind of an autumn and winter writer. So we are indulged with having lots of holidays. It's different now. It's a bit like a hamster on a wheel. You know, you've written one book and you think, oh hell, I've got to come up with 2 ideas, and the barrel is empty, so it's a bit scary. My books are always unplotted. I mean, if you were writing a detective story, for example, you've got to have the corpse and the murderer and the knife in the one room on page 270 or whatever it is. So if you're writing a genre book, you have to do that. Or a historical book, which is based on real history, you have to follow the structures of real history. But my books aren't worked like that. I start off with an idea. The idea was, let me write about poverty and how close it brings you to the bestial and the animal, the mammal in us, and then see what happens. And because humankind have been storytellers ever since the invention of fire. I mean, you can't imagine anyone sitting around a fire in ancient history with warm faces and cold backs, not talking about the day, not telling stories. Because storytelling is ancient, it's also generous and wise and mischievous. And so what I like to do is to let the story itself bubble through, because that's a lot of fun. Whereas if you impose your own story on it, you do to some extent, but if you entirely impose your story on it, then when you go to work every day to start writing, you can't expect any surprises, because you've already shut out the whole idea of surprises. And if you're living the lonely life of a writer, alone without colleagues, in front of that blinking screen, then surprises are very welcome. My name is Jim Crace, author of The Melody, and this is Metro Book Chat.